Mr. Smith.
Yeah, what's up? What's good? What's happening? Welcome to soon to be America's favorite couple, the King and Me show. I'm King.
Hey y'all, it's me, Michelle. How y'all doing?
We here at the King and Me show attempt to offer a real outlook on a healthy relationship. Real being relatable,
Entertaining,
accountable,
and loving.
So we're coming at y'all for an hour today. Thank y'all for tuning in this Monday, June 23rd of 2025. Today's live stream is going to put me in the hot seat as Michelle is going to be asking me some questions today about a certain period in my life and what I did to make things, kind of turn things around and get things to work out favorably for me. We're hoping that the audience that listens either live or during a replay can learn something from my story. So as you listen, take note of what's being said. And if you have any questions, certainly put it in the chat or in the comment section. And I'll be sure to answer it first chance that I get. Babe.
What up, baby?
I want to say thank you for this shirt.
Oh, you're so welcome.
It says Towson University Dad. Hers say Towson University Mom. I was unable to attend Castle's college orientation today, but Cassie and Michelle both went to support Castle, and I just want to look at you and say very publicly, thank you.
You're welcome.
So today's title is called From Brokenness to Brotherhood, A Man's Journey After Divorce. This was something that it was highly requested as we take a look into our comment section and we see certain things. We kind of saw a common theme here. So we decided to put this one out there, put me in the hot seat and, see if we could offer some value to somebody out there. Something like this helped me turn things around several years ago. So I'm hoping that I can provide that same value to somebody else today.
All right, babe. So I'm getting super duper comfortable. You're getting knee action here, which so
no
taboo.
Sound. Hold up. I can see the mic's working on. All right, let me turn this up. Turn things around. Hey, yeah.
Is it me? Is it me that you can't hear, or is it both of us? All right, babe. So I'm getting.
No. I can hear us on YouTube.
Hold on. Keep
talking. Double check that there is sound on your end. Tarika.
That's Facebook.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, if we're hearing it in one, we should be able to hear it on all. Yeah, Tarika, turn your volume up. I don't know what to say. All right. So what were you saying, babe? I'm sorry.
All right. I said I'm in super comfy mode. There's a knee that's exposed. Hopefully it's not too taboo. Ooh. All right. I'm ready to go.
Okay.
What are you doing?
I'm bringing up something. Don't worry about what I'm doing. I need you to talk
need the screen,
talk for like 15 seconds.
15 seconds.
Okay. I'm good now.
Thank you.
All right. So, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So let's get into this.
All right. So as many of you all know, King here is divorced. He was married for 14 years to someone that he had dated on and off since high school. They were married at a young age. They had one child together, and they have been divorced now for 6 years.
Man. Seems like it was just yesterday.
Wait, no, 19. 19 or 18?
19.
5 years. No, 6 years, because this is 25. Yeah, so they've been divorced for 6 years. And I wanted to, we've talked about often some of the things that King has gone through, some of the things he's faced. I'm just going to adjust our camera just a little.
Okay.
Or not adjust our camera.
All right. Okay, you got it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So the first question that I have for you, King, is what did life look like for you immediately after your divorce? So,
Oof.
and I know that you signed on the dotted line for your divorce in 2019. And what was it? April 2019.
Mm-hmm.
But I want you to go back to December 2018.
Okay. So just before when we made the decision, my ex-wife and I were still living together. And when you're thinking about a divorce, especially when you've been married over a decade, you've got a lot of things that are just intertwined. So my first thought was, okay, when we get the divorce in the state of Maryland, am I going to be able to support myself on my salary that I was making at the time in a state that's just expensive for everything?
Mm-hmm.
And that was my initial chief concern. I had a stable job, so I wasn't worried about my employment. My initial thought was, what am I going to do housing wise? And what was that going to look like for Castle as well? Life immediately after divorce was great for me because I had some resources.
Mm-hmm.
If I did not have one particular couple that allowed me to stay with them for a time being, I don't think I would have been able to rebound as good as I did. So I started in a position better than most because at least for just under a year, I was able to stay in a friend's basement. And he has a really good house. So that helped. I still struggled immediately because we went from one pot to essentially my own income. And because of my own decisions with debt and bad financial choices, things were rough for a while. And I definitely had to watch the way that I spent my money. I had to have, I was working about 60 or so hours a week doing my main job and then side hustles like Uber and Lyft just to get by with what I was making. So for me, in a better position than most because I at least had a friend that allowed me to rent out his basement for under market rate until I was able to get back on my feet. And even then, I might have missed a rent payment or two late, but paid it because I just was struggling to make ends meet with the finances.
All right. Thank you for that honesty. And by way of thank yous, I do want to thank Tom for popping in. He said, one of my favorite couples on YouTube. Thank you, thank you, thank you. With the other favorite couple being Mr. He Said and Mrs. She Said. And look, I support you on that. They are awesome.
Yeah, they're dope.
Shout out to Paul Bennett, who is also in the building. I don't know if Paul watches with his wife, but I do want to take a moment to just shout her out. They have been married as long as I've been alive, maybe a little bit less, who knows, but we do applaud them for their marriage and just how they continue to inspire all of us around. So we just heard from King, who answered the question. If you are just joining us, King is on the hot seat tonight as we talk about from brokenness to brotherhood, highlighting how his life has been since the divorce. Again, if you are new to us, King was married for 14 years to his, essentially, we'll just call her high school sweetheart. They have one child together who, as you can tell by our shirt, is going to Towson University in the fall.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers. All right, King. Next question. What was the hardest part of adjusting to life on your own, again, emotionally, financially, or otherwise, since your divorce? What was the hardest part of adjusting to life on your own again?
I spoke about it a little bit prior, and I'm going to go a little bit more into that. So we were essentially one pot. My ex-wife worked, I worked. We had a joint account. Everything went to that joint account. I was making financial decisions that weren't smart without her. So when it went from 2 to 1, where I was essentially solo, that hurt because money makes the world go round. Quite simply, money makes the world go round. Something that I'll add to that, though, is that I went through a period of depression. I didn't know what to call it. I didn't know that I was depressed. And during that period of depression is when I did a lot of my bad spending. I was spending money on things to try to make me happy when I did not need to spend money. Emotional, I was good. I never had my emotions in the hands of others really in my life. So going to my own, I didn't have emotional adjustments that I had to really deal with. The hardest part out of anything was just the financial separation of being on my own with that.
I thank you for that answer. However, I would like to respectfully disagree. If you were saying that you recognize now that post the divorce or during as the divorce was nearing its end, the marriage was nearing its end, if you are recognizing that you were experiencing signs of depression, then there was an emotional adjustment that you had to go through.
Yeah,
Not that
but
it was caused by someone else.
okay.
So I don't want you to look at adjustment meaning there was something that someone else did that you then had to adjust to, but there was an emotional adjustment that happened in there.
But I was depressed while still together. So coming out of that on my own, like I didn't get support from that while I was together. So I did not also have support on my own either.
But what did you do to address that depression? You didn't just sit in it. You're not still depressed today. There was something that happened. What happened for you to move from that place of depression?
I'm a veteran and I brought it up to my doctor, my primary care manager with the Department of Veterans Affairs, and they recommended that I see a psychologist, one of them.
Okay.
Y'all know the difference in them. I be Alabama roll tide.
All right. So then there was an adjustment that you had to go through, and you were able to get support for that. Do you feel like that helped you positively, negatively?
100% positively helped. My brother Hink on Hink in the Basement has this line that he always says with his very baritone voice. Go sit on somebody's couch. I can't do a deep voice
He
like
does
that.
have a deep voice.
But that's exactly what he says. Prior to that, I'm not gonna say I didn't believe in talking to somebody professionally about my problems was hokey pokey. I just always had the attitude that I could do it on my own. I don't need anybody who went and got a foo-foo degree to help me out. Turns out it's not just a foo-foo degree. Those people are trained and they're professionals on being able to help get you to see your own root problem. Now, I will say this, and I'm gonna stand on this. I think somebody who's also experienced in life that has lived things could also help.
Okay. All right. I respect that. One of the things that my pastor always says is that everyone should have a mentor and everyone should be a mentor, regardless of your age. And it shouldn't be just that you mentor someone down and you're mentored by someone older. It should definitely be, some age staggering to that.
No doubt.
I appreciate that.
Oh, I know where the no sound didn't come in at. Our intro didn't have any sound. I have to adjust something technically over here. Just remind me about that later.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Good evening. Good evening. Oh, we got a first time.
Hey, Kiara. I hope I said that
Kiara
right.
or Kiara?
Kiara, Miss Carter. Appreciate
Welcome.
you tuning in.
Thank you so much for joining. Will 42K 42.
Will 4K84. I got you. This is what we do. Shout out to the homie. This is the owner of Perry Production Facebook page, who he allows us to simulcast on his platform with over almost 300,000 followers on Facebook. So if you're watching over there from his platform, thank you, and we appreciate your support.
And shout out to him if you need videographer services.
No doubt.
All right. This next question. We have talked about this on and off in some of our streams, and it was actually this question that made me want to have this entire episode. So if you take a little bit longer to answer this, that's totally fine. But in the past, you have talked about your homelessness that you experienced and the fact that you lived in a car for a period of time. What was that like for you as a man emotionally, and how did that impact your identity? And I just want to give a little bit of history as to where this question also came from. There is this couple that has somehow, because I follow tiny home videos, has shown up in my life, in my reels, because it was a couple and they were homeless. They were living in a storage unit and like recording content and stuff like that. And they got discovered for that and then kind of had to get kicked out. And they were literally living in tents and everything like that. And then there was this other black male content creator that I saw who was living in his car. And it just made me think, you are a father, you are a US Air Force vet, and you experienced homelessness post divorce. Can you tell us what that was like for you as a man emotionally? What that was like for you in all the levels of intersectionality of your identity? How did that homelessness impact you?
Okay. Good question. I like how you framed that. Let me start off by saying this. My decision to spend some time in my car was a choice. Could I have afforded a place that was like an actual room and a bed and things like that? Yes. I made the decision at certain points to stay in my car because it helped save money. Now, I wouldn't classify that as homelessness, but you tell people, yeah, stayed in my car for a little bit, then people are going to be like, whoa, you were homeless? And I get that. For me, to speak about it, how it was for me emotionally, because I went into it making a decision with a purpose, I didn't feel like that was a something that appeared in my life that destroyed my manhood or made me feel like less of a guy or less of a man for doing it, because of what my reason was. And my thought process for making the reason was simple. In my head, I was like, look, you gotta do what you gotta do. Make it work. And I had the safety in my mind and with where I live that I really wasn't worried about too much of anything else. I believe that if I needed to do something like, hold on, I have to start here too. The reason why I stayed in Maryland, because this goes into this question, was to still be near Castle. My parenting arrangement that me and her mother talked about stressed that we should still be close by initially. That's both of us, for her development. I could have easily said, I can't afford to do this, which would have meant asking my mother or my father, can I come back and stay with y'all until I get on my feet? Which would have also had a downstream issue of likely having to pay more child support, which would have changed the calculations on some things, and less time near Castle, who was going through that transition herself. So my mindset on having to stay in my car sometimes came from, I gotta do what I gotta do to make this work, because the other parts of my rent can be prorated. If I were to spend X amount of days when I know I don't have my daughter in my car, that I could take $60 that's saved or $120 that's saved and put that towards knocking out debt and things like that. So just, it didn't have an effect on my identity, because for me, I was like, you got to do what you got to do. So I didn't make the decision out of desperation. I made the decision calculated and for a reason.
I do just want to say before I highlight Time's comment that according to good old fashioned Google, homeless or homelessness, someone who is homeless is someone who is without a home and thereby typically living on the streets. So by standard definition, whether it was a choice or not, because the definition of homelessness does not get into whether it was a choice or not.
Okay.
You were.
All right.
You made a choice to not have, you did not have your own residence in which you resided, and then in the pursuit of trying to save money, you were by definition homeless. So Thank you for answering that, baby.
No doubt.
Time said the world is really the pursuit to happiness for a man when he gets a divorce because there are no available options for help.
Nope. None. None. And I was talking about this to Will 4K84 earlier today. I said, there are shelters for women.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the men's shelter at?
And that's, as a business teacher, one of the movies that I can show as far as my curriculum is concerned, I can show The Pursuit of Happiness because he was an entrepreneur. He was selling things. So that is a movie that I can show that aligns with my curriculum. And it very much talks, if you've never seen that movie, Pursuit of Happiness, and it is happiness with a Y for the movie. And there's a reason why. It's the story of Will Gardner and how he post his separation from the mother of his child, how he and his child experienced homelessness in their pursuit of trying to reach that American dream. Um, and that is something that, we have to think about as we think about the US Constitution and all of the rights and all of the laws that were written for us here in the US. It says the pursuit of happiness, meaning we all have the right to desire it, to seek after it, to, actively go and chase it, but we are not guaranteed that happiness. And I don't want to infer too much, so please correct me if I'm wrong, either Time or King. But is it safe to say that when you are a man post divorce in the United States, it's always going to be that pursuit, that chasing after, that attempting to acquire happiness versus actually acquiring and having and possessing happiness post divorce?
Ooh. I'm going to say observationally, that is, that appears to be the case.
Okay.
Because I know for a good little bit, I was lost, right? And I was trying to find answers for things, right? Like, why didn't the marriage work out? What am I going to do money-wise and things like that? I'm stressed about the finances really more than anything. Most of my stress came from money, not necessarily from life. Because I was always like, well, got myself in this situation. Let me work to get myself out of this situation. That was always my mindset. I know a lot of people don't really think that way, but to what you just said, yeah, I think the actual pursuit of happiness is what's lost because people don't typically understand their why. Once I figured out my why and I started really working towards that, that's when things turn around. And I think there's going to be a question a little bit later on that talks about that.
Okay. As we prepare to transition to that next question, well, actually, let's just go ahead and pull it up.
This one?
Yep. Thank you. Were there any misconceptions that you had about divorce that didn't match reality? So you, like me, come from a divorced household. Um, Both of your parents are remarried to people that are not each other. You also, like me, saw a lot of divorce, more so divorces around you or non-marriages around you than successful marriages. Were there any misconceptions that you had about divorce that didn't match reality?
I don't know how to answer this question. So, my parents divorced when I was 20. I was in the military at the time on my own. 1920, because my brother was a senior in high school about to graduate. My dad left. When the divorce happened, he's like, yep, my oldest is born or graduated. My youngest is whatever. I ain't got to be here. I'm out. I didn't necessarily see what that meant for him, having to root his life and change and go to someplace else. If he had a struggle, I didn't see it. My conceptions about divorce is that typically the guy would struggle depending on the situation, how many kids he had, things like that. I would typically see, from what I saw, the guy that would move into a 1-bedroom, half-bath house just to make things meet until he got his butt to work and figured things out. So for me, again, if I didn't have help, that might have been what I also had to deal with. So to look at that question and say, were there any misconceptions I had about divorce that didn't match reality? Most of what I saw did match what I thought would happen during a divorce.
So that leads me to another question. Again, pulling off of what Time wrote, pulling off of what you just said. Why is it, well, let me dig myself into a hole. Who do you think suffers more in the divorce? The wife or the husband?
Ah, the wife.
Okay, why?
It's easy for a man to bounce back once he realizes what his purpose should be. Typically, men will make their family their purpose. And when that split happens, you kind of go, what do I need to do now? Because that wasn't necessarily my identity, but that was important to me. And now I'm looking at a failed marriage going, okay, well, I'm not making decisions for everybody else anymore. Now I just really got to worry about myself and, by extension, because I'm a responsible person, my daughter. So, in my opinion, if a man can figure it out, it's a hell of a lot easier for a man to bounce back and live a great life than it is for a lady.
All right, thank you. So we have Torian in the building. Now, he is someone, I mean, I guess I can still call him a colleague. He and I used to be colleagues. We met at a recent event that I participated in at Hood College. Thank you so much for joining us. He's also a first timer. Thank you, thank you, thank you. He is an artist, a phenomenal artist, and he is very much local to us. So I'll tell you more about him later. All right, so Torian says the husband suffers more. Whether you watch this live or on the replay, I would love to hear your opinion about who you think suffers more, the husband or the wife in a divorce, and also include why you believe it is the way that you believe. I will say for me, I grew up with my mom, so it looked like it was harder for her because she did have to file bankruptcy after some things with my dad, and they were only married for 2 years. Like, my parents were only married for 2 years, and there were a lot of shady things that happened during the 2 years that they were legally married to one another, and my mom did end up having to file for bankruptcy after her marriage ended with him. Before we move on to the next question, I want to ask something. So again, King and I, King was married this is for the newcomers. King was married for 14 years to his high school sweetheart. He has been divorced legally for 6 years, separated for 6.5. And we're talking today about how he moved from the brokenness of his divorce into the current brotherhood state that he's in right now. My question for you is completely lost to me because I just did all of that. Oh my gosh.
It's okay.
Wow, I can't believe I just totally blinked out on that. I'll come back to it. Let's move on to number 7.
All right.
How did your marriage, oh, that's what it is. All right, before we get there, I remember now. So today when we went to the school, right, when we went to Towson, they asked us to define what a successful college experience looked like.
Okay.
My question for you, because you said that you had a failed marriage, you said that. What is your definition of a successful marriage? Or what is your definition of a failed marriage? And that's my question to you all too. Hey Charlotte, how are you doing? Welcome, welcome, welcome. My question to you all, to everyone, is what is your definition of a successful marriage, and or what is your definition of a failed marriage?
Okay. My definition of a successful marriage, I'll start there. A successful marriage to me is one in which two people come together in a union, they say I do to each other, and they happily go through that union until one of them is no longer living on this earth.
So you are very by the book. This is what makes a successful marriage.
Yes, and I'm stressing the happy part because I don't believe that anybody that's in an unhappy marriage is in a successful marriage.
Ooh.
So I'm stressing the happy part. You should be happy to wake up with somebody and be like, you know what? I still love this person. That is a successful marriage to me. A failed marriage is a marriage in which that union did not end due to death. It ended because one or both gave up.
So would you, by definition, say if a couple got married when they were 20 years old and they stayed married for 70 years until one of them went on to glory, but they spent 49 of those 50 years unhappy?
Not a successful marriage.
That's not a successful marriage. Okay.
Not to me.
All right.
Not to me.
All right. So let's see what, before I comment on what I think it is, let's see what Torian said. So Torian got us started and said, I agree the husband has a great comeback, but I think the courts, so he brought in the courts in his definition of who has it harder, the husband or the wife in a divorce. He said, I think the courts have a bias for the mother. But this all for you guys who have kids. Okay, that's true. I do agree that women have a lot on them.
Now, so I like to add to that. I think that the courts haven't caught up to what modern society looks like. In my opinion, the reason why courts are more biased or favorable towards the mom, I don't think it's because mothers are more nurturing towards their kids. In my opinion, I think that there's still a cultural viewpoint in that ladies who are not marketable in the job field need more support to be able to sustain and do things and make things work out. So that's why the court more hammers the person with the most resources, which is typically
the man.
The man, typically.
So it's so funny that you both say that. And I'm not saying whether I agree or disagree. I'm just moderating for the most part. But what I will say is this. I have been watching Call the Midwife, which is a show on Netflix. Okay. And it's, as the name implies, it's a show about midwifery in like 1950s, 1960s England. Okay, so let's come back. It's across the seas. However, what I have seen and what I have inferred, not from research, but what I have inferred from the show is that during that time period, if there was a divorce, the woman didn't automatically get the kids just because she was the woman. The kids would typically, if there was a divorce, the kids would typically go to the husband because the husband was able to provide income. But if for whatever reason, the woman could find true fault in her husband to be able to call for a divorce, and it was like a safety issue, then during that time in England, the National Health System, or National Health Service, I think was, NHS, would be able to find a place for mom and children to be able to live. But for the most part, the courts back then sided with the men. So my general question, and this is probably something that I need to do more homework on, when did we switch? Or was England always like that? Was the UK always like that? And then we just weren't? As a country, as the United States, we didn't believe in that. We did something totally different. But that was interesting to see that, 65 years ago, 70 years ago, it wasn't necessarily the woman who always got the children.
That's interesting.
So I'll put that out there. Thank you, Torian, for your comment. We see Paul has commented and said that a divorce is a failed marriage regardless of length. In fact, the longer the marriage, the worse it is. Okay. And then he also added, there was certainly a change. 100 years ago, children stayed with the father. Yeah, I honestly, this is my ignorance. I don't know why. So I'd be curious to research that shift to see what happened.
Okay.
And answering my question again, Torian said, I feel a successful marriage is the proper alignment of two people who love and appreciate each other and are willing to be there and do what's best for the other, even if it's against their own self-interest. Oh, I like that. Okay. Many folks marry but don't even like the person they marry. So I know why you made your face like that. I do. Torian, thank you. Excuse this facial expression.
Greater good, though, should matter more than self-interest.
But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Torian, what I think, so it's not natural for you to be touchy-feely, right?
Correct.
But my leg is resting on yours and you have not moved it.
Because I don't mind it, but it's not a natural thing for me. I don't just go, babe, we should be all touchy-feely.
But that's that part that he's saying right there. Even when it goes against your own self-interest, your self-interest would not be to be touchy-feely. But you do that because for me. Okay. You don't mind it, but you do it for me. That's what he means in that. Cool. Not to the great extremes of, oh, babe, let's go commit this illegal crime because I know it'll benefit you, even though it goes against who I believe I am. Like, that's not what he's saying.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, y'all. That one. All right. So back to this. How did the, overall, how did your marriage, and by your definition, your failed marriage, how did that shape the way you now view love, relationships, and even yourself as a partner in our relationship?
Ooh, I hope you still love me after I answer this. No. So, I'm going to say this. When you and I got together, one of the things that I said was, I'm not sure if I want to get married again.
Yeah, he pretty much had like a banner going in the sky about that. Go ahead.
And I was upfront about that.
You were.
And part of me even said, I think to you, that's not fair. That's not fair because, and I've read your blogs and things before you and I got together, even as friends, that you had a desire to be certain things in life. And one of those things were you had a desire to be a wife. And I'm like, man, look, I've done a marriage. It didn't work out. And my marriage wasn't really bad. And I'm going to tell you, I would still be bitter to this day and not the person that she can be able to sit next to if my ex-wife would have asked for alimony. If she would have asked for alimony and got her the water, because you can ask for the moon. You can ask for the moon, you can ask for the stars. That doesn't mean that the court's going to grant it to you. But had she asked for it and gotten it, I would still be a bitter man to this day. Only because in my mind, I'm like, why am I paying for somebody that, and I'm just going to say this, like, I'm not responsible for anymore. That would drive me nuts. Who could go out, sleep with whoever, be with whoever. And in my mind, I'm like, I just paid for part of that date. So,
okay.
The experience of going through that and how it shaped my views on relationships, there's a part of me that still goes, man, Michelle could wake up tomorrow and be like, I don't want to do this. And she's entitled to do that. And I wouldn't have a problem with it. But before my marriage and divorce, I thought things did go through thick and thin. I was like, I thought you stuck it out. You did what you had to do to make things work. And you would hope that the other person did the same thing. Now, I'm going to say I was not without my faults in my prior long-term relationship / marriage. I was not without my faults. I'm going to raise my hand and say I did some things that I should not have done. Let's just say that. It still made me go looking forward. Like, why would I want to put myself through that again? Which is why I can very publicly say this. This isn't something that I've hidden from Michelle. We've talked about what our relationship could look like going forward. And that might mean we do life together, but we don't have the title husband and wife. To which I say, are you comfortable with that?
So yes, I'll answer that. I am comfortable with that because, as you said, my blog said that I wanted to be a wife. Well, here's the funny thing. I said I wanted to be a wife and did not know what that meant. For a very long time, I am willing to admit, I was chasing a title, not knowing at all the job duties that came with that, right? I was seeking this professional title because I felt like society said I needed to have this title, but I had no clue what the job description was. I had no clue how to be that person. But yet that was something that I wanted because it was a big fancy title. That's like me desiring to be, excuse me, someone's chief legal officer and having no clue at all how to speak any legalese or anything like that. That's essentially what I was doing when I was saying that. But I soon realized, let me figure out what these job duties are and let me do these job duties and not necessarily chase after the title. I do want to say something. First to Paul Bennett, you said, King, if greater good is more important, then why is happiness important? So I do want to just apologize for something. King was not saying that greater good is more important. That was a comment from another person in the chat from Torian. That was Torian's remark, and that was just me expanding because I saw King's facial expression and I knew where he was going. But then I have a question for you, King, and then I have at least like one really, really good question left. But you said something and it sparked a question within me. And the question that I have is, it's not even that. The question that I have is, you said prior to your marriage failing and you realizing that a woman can wake up and say, oh, I don't want to do this anymore, you believed that all marriages were supposed to go until death did you part. But my question is, where did you get that idea from, considering that you had never seen it?
You know,
like literally, like
yeah,
I'm not saying this to be mean. Both
no.
of your parents are divorced.
Mm-hmm.
You come from a family that's either not married or divorced. And respectfully, you were in the military, so you know what it looks like when people get that shotgun marriage just because, oh, I'm about to be deployed. Let me go find me a spouse real quick and then divorce. So, like, you've seen more divorces than you have successful marriages. Right now, give me two marriages that you know that are successful.
Mr. and Mrs. Inchegi, shout out to them. I don't know if they watched the live stream.
Okay. Took too long. That's what I'm saying. And I'm not knocking any of the friends you have. I'm not knocking any of your friends because in my head I already have 5 that came to my mind.
Well, I've got some peers, but I was trying not to think about, I wanted people that I knew personally that was longer than 20. And I think I think the Caldwells might fit that, but I wasn't sure.
But you notice how you weren't just able
not the
to
Caldwells,
easily spit it off?
The Thomases. I'm sorry.
And you didn't say anyone in your family. So again, my question is, how did you come to the conclusion that that marriages were supposed to be until death did you part when you had never seen that?
I got an answer for that.
Go.
It's so easy. I thought, well, that was everybody else, not me.
Oh.
I thought I could be the one that defeated the odds because I know better, which is stupid. Dumb on me.
Ooh, okay, I love that honesty. So I want to take a moment to shout out. Time must have brought him up because I see Mr. He Said is in the building. Shout out to you. Hey, how are you doing, Mr. He Said? And we just gonna go ahead and say hello to Mrs. She Said because we know that she is not only in your heart, but she's probably physically nearby. Shout out to Larry Smith. Hey, Dad, how are you? And then Tarika said, I'm already a wife, just not married yet. And I love that for you.
I like that. I do.
I love that for you. And I'm going to be honest, there was probably a time in my life where I thought that, but looking back with the maturity of where I am now, I can honestly say I was not. I was not doing anything. I was not carrying myself in a way that prepared me to be someone's wife. The Bible says, he that findeth a wife finds a good thing. I was not carrying myself in a wife-like behavior, so there was no way I was going to get found like that. I recognize that about me. Go ahead before we move on to the next question.
The back half of that says, how did that experience shape myself as a partner? I initially thought for the longest time that I'm just not built to be in a relationship. And it wasn't until I went through therapy that I learned some things. And even after I got through that post-therapy, I was like, well, here's the thing. I feel as though I am awesome. I am a good person to want to be with. And if somebody else doesn't recognize that, that's on them. And I was setting up myself to go through life as a serial bachelor. And in a string of very short-term relationships until it ran its course. And I was perfectly happy with that. Why you're still here, you are somebody that when you were introduced, I could see a lot of positive things in you early on. I thought you were attractive. That was the hook, if you will. But then you showed value in my life that was like, she can stick around. I say that jokingly, but I'm gonna be straight up. If that value wasn't there, I would have been like, So yeah.
Okay. All right. I am okay with however.
You gotta do this. I got you. And then bam. Oh, nope.
Oops. My bad.
There.
Okay. What would you say to another man who may be going through the thick of it right now?
Right now, there's this thing called the fog of war. If you're in the military, you understand what the fog of war is. For those of y'all that aren't in the military, it's you don't know what you don't know, and it's that uncertainty that adds a lot of anxiety and stress to your life. What I would say to another man that's going through it right now, that's in the thick of it all, is that experience the stages of grief. Live them. Don't try and avoid it. Don't try and, you know what, I'm good. No, you're lying to yourself. Deal with those stages of grief. The faster that you can do that healthily, that's a word, the quicker you can turn things around in your life. So don't avoid the grief. Don't think that it's not affecting you. A big change has happened. There is a lot of unknown that you're going to be dealing with. It's okay. Many of other people have also experienced it as well. I would also say find a support group. There are actually a lot of support groups, some that are just for men, others that are people that are going through a divorce. I'm considered an OG now in one of the divorce groups that I joined, and it was a good avenue to just talk to other people that are going through things or have gone through it themselves. The moderator that's in that group I met, and he was going through his at the same time. It occurs during the time that we're live, so I'm not in there now, but I have at least popped in after the fact, and I've seen that it can help people. So I would say find a support group quick. That can help you realize that it's not as bad as you think. And if you're looking for specific resources, I mean, start on social media. That's what I did. Reddit or Facebook groups is a perfect way to find the right fit for you.
All right. Thank you, baby. Now, what I'm going to ask is that from those who are watching, if you could give your own advice, whether you are married, divorced, single, give advice to a man who may be going through the thick of it right now, unsure how to rebuild, going through that divorce period. If you could go ahead and drop some words of wisdom, whether you're watching this live or whether you're watching this on the replay, or even if you just catch this segment later, can you share some words of advice for a man who is currently in the thick of it? Now, again, definition of advice is it's supposed to be inspiring. It's supposed to be encouraging. It's supposed to be uplifting. It is not supposed to be negative. Like, let's inspire men. We have to realize that we are supposed to support our men. We are supposed to uplift our men. We're supposed to keep them in prayer. We are supposed to pour into them so that they can continue to do all of the things that they need to do to be able to provide for the home. You want this man to be the leader of your home, but are you making him the leader of your heart? Are you doing all of those things? Are you carrying them? Like, are you doing those things for this man that you want to be the leader? So let's go ahead and let's leave some words of advice and some words of wisdom. Now, for the last question, I am torn because a part of one is what I like, and then a part of another is what I like too. So I think I'm going to go with this one. So my last question for you today is, what does healing look like for you today? And how do you continue to protect your growth?
What does healing look like for me today? Today, healing is I'm happy to wake up. People that know me in real life know that I'm a genuinely easy-go-lucky kind of guy. I don't carry a lot of stress. I don't invite a lot of stress in my life, and that's designed on purpose. My number one thing is what, babe? Peace.
Oh, protect your peace. Sorry.
Yep.
Sorry, I was thinking about the answer to Paul's question. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yes.
Protect your peace.
Protect my peace. So for me, when you understand what peace truly is, that's when you know that you've healed. And once you understand that peace, y'all, I'm telling you, it is like a ton of feathers have been lifted off of your body. And you're like, you know what? I'm in a good place. And then once you realize what peace looks like for you, you don't allow people to come in to disrupt that. What I don't get, what I don't understand is people that still allow that peace to come into their life. That tells me they're not a healed person. They're still dealing with some kind of chaos in their minds, whether they know it or not, that they need to figure out so that they could go through that healing process themselves. And how do I continue to protect my growth? I have these conversations with people from time to time. People that are going through it themselves, having conversations with the fellas that makes it go, you know what? My barometer is on the right path with how I'm thinking about this. Because I have been wrong about things, but it's taken me to have conversations with people like Paul, with people like Will 4K, with my brother my brother's been in one relationship, right? But my brother is good at reading people and reading things. So I'll even go to my younger brother for a little bit of advice because his life experiences gives him a point of view that a lot of the times he's quick to see something that later on I'm like, man, he called that perfect because he's had jobs where he's had to read people. He essentially worked as a bartender. That's like the ultimate reading people type job outside of a psychiatrist. So how do I continue to protect my growth? By having these conversations with people, by not being silenced about what I went through, no matter how insignificant it might be to somebody else. To somebody that's been happily married for 20 plus years, they may not understand what this feels like, and that's okay. Congratulations to you and yours for making it work. Those people are the minority. There are more divorced people in the US than there are first time married, happily married people. And that's crazy when you think about it.
Now, I don't know the exact statistic, but I believe it's 50% of marriages end in divorce. And then what is it? 30% of second or more marriages stay married, something like that. Okay. All right. So that means 70%.
Yeah, it's somewhere around like 64.
64%
of second marriages fail.
Okay.
Higher than first marriages.
Yeah. So shout out to those that actually make it and those that survive.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that to be. Oh,
no,
Paul
I'm
Ben's
looking
question.
At Paul's question.
Oh yeah. So Paul's question, and he may have to get back to you later with this answer. What are your top breakup/divorce songs?
Oh man.
And did you have a playlist you played over and over? Can you give us one song? We have time for one.
I'm gonna give one, and it sucks because this is the breakup song, but my other songs were like more crunk songs. So my breakup song, and this is so funny to me when I think about it. I don't know why, but Usher, You Got It Bad. I played that song when you're all alone. Wake up and you call right back.
You got it bad.
The song, the lyrics didn't necessarily apply to me, but just the feeling of the song is what I felt like initially. Usher, You Got It Bad. And then, is it appropriate for me to say, I can say this part real quick because I do see the time. Not because of the lyrics, but the feeling of the song, Whoop That Trick. Again, not about a person, but like, it's a song to get you hyped. So when I need to get hyped, that I would play Whoop That Trick.
You need to just play any of Taylor Swift songs from like the beginning.
No.
And I'm not even a Swiftie, but that's just me saying she had a lot of breakup songs.
Now, Paul, thank you for bringing that up. What I do recommend, don't put sappy, sad songs on a breakup playlist. Play crunk, hype, upbeat music to just kind of get things turned around.
Okay. All All right, so he gave us a little Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yeah, okay.
After the Love is Gone is nice.
Uh-huh. No
And
more shopping sprees. And Orange Juice Jones in the Rain. That's not familiar to me.
I don't know that.
I'm gonna have to look that one up. I'm gonna play that when we get to the gym here in a little bit.
All right, sir. So thank you to everyone in the chat who has commented. Again, if this is your first time tuning in, we are the King and Me show, and we are live every single Monday Eastern Standard Time at 7 p.m. where we come and we just help you to have a healthy outlook on a real relationship, relatable, entertaining, accountable, and loving. We stay at that 1 hour mark, now we are preparing to travel. We don't know what we're going to look like when we're traveling, what our shows are going to look like, but we ask that you would still tune in. There's always a way to keep up with us. If you go over to www.thekingandmeshow.com, you'll be able to not only follow along with our journeys and our travels, but you'll also be able to shop fresh merch. And I know neither one of us are wearing that merch right now, but you'll be able to shop fresh merch and, join in, support, and come in at different levels. We thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you, King, for sitting in the hot seat today and talking about from brokenness to brotherhood. And what I love most about everything you said today is that you basically said that post your divorce, you turned to community to be able to build. So, men, if you heard nothing else today, we ask that you don't do anything alone. Continue to build a community and allow that community to continue to strengthen you and to help you move on.
That I need to expound on that. I was fortunate enough that I've lived a life in which people did want to help. If I was an a-hole or somebody that didn't do things for others or things like that, I wouldn't have had people that were willing to say, hey, you can rent my basement. I wouldn't have had the ability when I had 6 months where I rented from a crazy person to have the current person who I'm renting from now say, hey man, I have a spot and this is what, I'll charge you. And it was a very favorable rate. But I think that speaks to my character and the ability to have people that are willing to go, you know what, King's a solid dude, so let me help him out. So to the fellas that are out there, you have to be that type of person that can allow people and people would want to help and support you. If you put yourself in a silo, you might not be able to have people that are willing to do that. And to those people, I'm sorry, I don't know what to do for that.
All right. Well, thank you for the advice. We hope that you all have a great evening. We'll see you next week, the last Monday in June. We always end the same way, so we're going to do that. And here we go.
All right. Mwah.
Bye, everyone.
Peace.